Thank you for the introduction. And it seemed like only a few years ago that I was sitting where you guys are sitting in class and learning about real estate and how to make money and so forth. And I thank you for allowing me to speak today. And I'd rather be in a classroom situation where I have an opportunity to meet each one of you individually. But my office is not too far from the campus, so my door is always open if you ever want to circle around and get back to me and talk about my favorite subject, which is real estate. I see in the title that someone put millionaire in there, and I like to really play that down. As soon as you see millionaire, the price of properties goes up when you try to buy something. So I usually walk in as if I'm a pauper or something, you know, and holes in my tennis shoes and so forth when I try to buy property. But if you'd ask my son and daughter, and they gave me my motto, Dad's always been, he's either been poor and he's been rich, but he's always been broke. And that's kind of been my motto, if you will. Most people, they sell something, they get some money and they run to the bank and they put it in the bank like normal people do. I run out and I pay off a debt and then go out and buy more property. So I'm like addicted. I've probably owned over 400 properties in my life. So I instead of selling tomatoes or avocados, I buy and sell property, and it's worked out pretty good for me. I also want to congratulate each one of you for being in the School of Business there at the Cal State Fullerton. Everybody I know that has graduated from Fullerton has done very, very well. So you're getting a great education, and not only in my generation, but your generation, as we try to place, and we do place students into the business world. The feedback always comes back very, very positive. And the takeaway today is really that information you don't get in the classroom. It's really investment strategy, and trying to add to your education being street smart. So with that, we'll start, and we'll try and go through this. As some of the stuff I'm going to go through pretty fast and concentrate at the end on more of the meat, if you will, of game strategy. Let's see here. How do I get this? This doesn't play.
Do this one. Oh. Click on the screen.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Just about my history. Graduated in '67 with a bachelor's degree and went to work for Rockwell International in Anaheim in the Human Relations Department. And then was transferred over to General Dynamics Pomona Division in '68. And then I was drafted in the Army when I was 24 years old, went to Alaska and spent almost 2 years. It was 21 months and a day, and got out for an early out to go back to Cal State Fullerton and declared a second major. And then I started went to work for the RIM, or Robert E. McNeil Corporation, in 1971 to '78. And in the picture here, Apartment News, I got in early and was vice president of this corporation. I was 28 years old and had 10,000 apartment units that I was managing and responsible for. And also about 2 million square feet of industrial and commercial. And I had a great team. Most of my property managers had MBAs and business background, and we did quite well as far as the company was concerned. And then I formed the RIM group in 1978. This was to manage my own property. So while I was with the Robert A. McNeil Corporation, on Saturdays, I'd go out and make ridiculous offers, and gave me a chance to retire early, if you will, start my own company. And then I'm currently a developer of property in Lake Oroville and then also in Banning. And then now, as of the last couple of months, moving into the Reno, Nevada area. And well, my real estate investments again started in 1964 to the present time. And my early history, while I was at Cal State Fullerton and Santa Ana College before that, I started a business importing Mexican huaraches, sandals with tire treads on the bottom. They're very popular with the surfers. And within 2 years, I was the largest importer of Mexican footwear in the United States, and was 18 years old. And I figured I knew nothing about retail, knew nothing about shipping or importing or anything else, but just jumped into it and started asking people a lot of questions and kind of learning on the job. And that was a really, really good, a good business for me. And then on, I think it was April 4th, 1964, I was 19 years old at the time, I syndicated a 46-acre property at Lake Oroville, right across from the major state park, which wasn't built yet. And largest now, which is the largest marina west of the Mississippi, which wasn't built yet because the lake wasn't built yet. So I still have that property today. And then right out of the Army, I had the GI Bill that I could, purchase a home at, 1% down. And I decided to go ahead and buy a fourplex rather than just a house. And I picked Milton Street right behind Cal State Fullerton to the north. And it was $60,000 for the fourplex with 1% down on the GI Bill, which was $600. And then with closing costs and so forth, it came to $1,300. Well, I didn't have $1,300. I didn't even have a job at the time. My wife had a job and she was pregnant, but we didn't talk about that to the lending people. But I needed $1,300, so I kind of scratched my head. Said, "What do I do?" Well, you got to be a Cal State Fullerton guy. You got to be creative. So I got a Cal State Fullerton student loan for $1,000, and now I'm short $300. So I keep scratching my head, and I said, "Well, let's see here. The Visa cards just came out, and that was Bank of America cards at that time." And so I borrowed $300, which was the maximum. And I gave my $1,300 to buy my fourplex on Milton. And then a week before this closed escrow, I get a call from a broker saying, "Say, Taylor, you've got to have some money in the bank for security for the loan, and they want to see your savings account." And I said, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll get that right to you." Of course, I had nothing. So about 5 minutes later, a buddy of mine, Bill Ofterheide, comes walking in the house and, "Hey, Bill, how much money do you have?" Bill says, "Well, I got $500. I said, "Look here, write me a check for $500, and I'll write you a check back for $500 a couple of weeks from now." And he said, "Oh, okay." So he loaned me the $500 to pad my banking account, and I got my loan on Milton Street. And then I held that for about 3 years. Lived in one of the units, rented out the other. And then I sold it 3 years later for $120,000. So made out pretty good. And then on Corona, back in 1976, started making offers on properties in Corona because it was a growth area and I couldn't afford to buy in Orange County. It was just too expensive. And anyway, then, well, Corona, that's like the end of the world. You got to be crazy for going to Corona. I said, well, it's the only place I can afford. So to make a long story short, every Saturday morning for 2 years, I only missed a couple of Saturdays. I'd meet with a broker friend of mine, and later on he became a partner. And we bought $3 million worth of property virtually for nothing down. And I can go through those sometime with you if you like. And then as of recent years, starting with 2000, I made a speech at Cal State Fullerton, kind of like we're doing today. Young lady comes up to me and she says, after the meeting, she said, "I'd like to have lunch with you." I said, "Great." So anyway, I hired her as my assistant. And to make a long story short, we formed a company called Sabo, Sarah and Bob. And we bought 47 properties in a 2-year period. In 2005, we could see that the recession was going to come. This whole thing's going to blow wide open with all the crazy lending they're doing. Nobody imagined how deep that recession was going to be, or how long it was going to be. But by that time, my line of credit was up to around 400,000, and so I sold a couple of properties. Actually, we sold 7 properties out of the 47 that we had bought, and paid off on the bank and got all of our money back that we put in for the down payments and the money we owed to the bank. So we entered the recession with, we had regular debt on the property from the first trust deed, but we had none of our own money. So if worse came to worse, we had to give all the properties back, all 40, to the bank. We would still come out even. We wouldn't have lost anything. But the goals for life, power, fame, and wealth. And I submit, no matter what you want to do in life, whether it's power, running for office, or fame, being a rock star, or being a business person, you need to focus on wealth. And the reason for that is what we don't know your lifespan. You don't know about emergencies that might come up. You don't know about your health, and not only your health, but the health of your family and other people that you trust, and your friends, and they may need your assistance sometime financially to get through a medical problem. Job security, and like a coronavirus, nobody knew a year ago that this was coming up. And I want to kind of talk about job security for a minute. When I was 18, I saw my dad work at a job that he hated, absolutely hated. He was an attorney for the government, made good money, and the retirement was good. But he hated his job because of the bureaucracy of working for the federal government. But he was locked in because he wanted to get that nice pension fund in a few years. So I said I never saw a millionaire work at a job that he didn't like. So my goal was to become a millionaire as fast as I could. I set an objective. I wanted to have 100,000 by the time I was 30, and $1 million by the time I was 40. So subconsciously, that was in the back of my mind. So every decision that I made in life was based around that objective, if you will, being independent in life, not necessarily so I could have a house on the hill or a nice boat or whatever, but mainly so I had a job. I didn't have to worry about it, working for somebody else. So I had that job security when I was 32 years old. I had made my million. And then, of course, you scratch your head saying, okay, what's the next objective? You go 10 million or 100 million, and you say to yourself, well, money's not that important anymore. What's really important is kind of playing the game, having fun, and, enjoying life. So I've had a wonderful life, if you will. I've been blessed. But it was all driven by watching my dad work at a job that he hated. Okay, what we do know is that the government's broke, and they're in worse financial shape today than they've ever been, and particularly the state of California. You have to be aware of that the government's going to be, in your pocket, front pocket, back pocket, cuffs, they're just going to take the money away wherever they can get it. Now they're even talking about wealth taxes. So you got to be careful there, and be careful how your strategy in moving forward. What you want to do is live well, but not make any money. And so I can help you with that if you want to talk about it someday. Now, why invest in real estate? Well, first of all, there's limited supply. The purchase can be leveraged. Okay, so starting out in life like you are right now, you want to buy property for nothing down if you can. But it's a whoopee if you can buy it for nothing down and the property carries. But you want to buy property that produce income or produce wealth. And the best vehicle I know, and I don't know anyone else who would comment on this, but unless you're developing some kind of software that you can sell and overnight. Real estate's the best vehicle to create wealth that I know of. The tax on profit can be deferred and avoided, if you will. And I can talk to you about that if you have an interest. What I like about it is you don't have to be very smart. I prove that. I'm a C+ student through Cal State Fullerton. I did get my master's degree from Fullerton, but as I tell the former dean and Neil Puri, I probably have the lowest grade point average of any undergraduate that has a master's degree at Cal State Fullerton. But during that period of time that I was at this college, I was probably making as much or more than some of the professors. Study the cycle. The past will predict the future. And this is a chart that's prepared by Chris Lee, I should say, and Associates. And you can go online and Google CEL and Associates. His reports that come out quarterly. He's really my rabbit, if you will, or my mentor. He's right on target in his predictions I've seen in the past. So this is a chart that I prepared for at Tsinghua University in China to show the economic cycles of the real estate industry in the United States. And prepared this back in 2008. So the dark blue line is actual, and then I just kind of made up the line going forward. But if you go to 2020, you see the line is maybe at the top peak now, and then if you kind of step back and look at what's happening at 50,000 feet down, you see that, well, maybe retail is not such a good market right now. Maybe industrial is good. The apartments very well, and housing, but maybe not so good for retail and office. So but, you study the peaks, and you want to buy on the downside, if you will, down at the bottom of the trough if you can, and then ride it up. And you want to buy when everybody else is selling and sell when everybody else is buying. So if you were buying property in 2008, 9, 10, you're doing really good today. Now might be a good time to sell. Okay, visualize your goal. Each one of you think about where you want to be at age 30 and age 40, and write that down. You know, I want to be a millionaire. I want to have 10 million by such and such a year. Just make that, write it down and think about it. And what happens is your subconscious will take over, and anything that you do in your life will be, your mind automatically, subconscious will check to that goal. As an example, in college there at Cal State Fullerton, all my buddies drove brand new cars, and I drove an old beat up wreck. And they all had beautiful gals, you know, on their arms of driving through campus, and I had no girls. So, but I really made money by driving old beat up cars and having no ladies. So I don't know who was the smartest, but I did always had money in my pocket. So, but make an objective that you want to be wealthy, and you will be. Okay. OPM with other people's money. In forming a partnership, one of you has to have experience and the other has to have money. Now, both of you have experience and both of you have money. That's a whoopee. That's a good way to go. But if both of you have no experience and no money, you're in trouble. Okay. So you starting out, probably you have time. You will have time Saturday mornings, and you have expertise. Okay. And you say, well, gosh, I don't know. I don't have expertise. Maybe I don't even have a real estate license yet. But the mere fact that you're taking these classes and you've had 1 or 2 classes in real estate and you have your bachelor's degree, the reality is you're probably in the top 1% of the people in the world or in the United States or in your community that has some knowledge in real estate. So when you talk to somebody else that's a doctor or lawyer or whatever, they had no experience in real estate. So they look at you as the expert because you had a couple of classes. So what I did is I tried to join up with people who had money and became their partners. And then pretty soon after we started making money, then I would buy them out. Okay. Then develop relationships and trust. Very, very important. The relationships that you develop here at Cal State Fullerton, you'll have these relationships for the rest of your life. And you'll be leaning on each other, especially if you're in the same industry, in the real estate industry. And you want to build your trust. You don't want to ever take advantage of anybody. And if I'm in a partnership with another party, I usually check to what their goals and objectives are, not what is best for Bob Taylor. And that's really paid me rewards and all the way through my life. Is take care of the other person first and yourself second. Okay. I want to call your attention to a website called shadowstat.com. And if you look at the blue line, this is how CPI was calculated by the United States government in, let's say, the early 1980s. And we had some years where we had 10 and 15% inflation. And now most government contracts for leasing of office buildings that they're leasing from independent owners and Social Security is tied to the CPI index. So they had a few years where the government got whacked, if you will, that they had to pay guys like myself a big 10% increase in my Social Security. Well, they didn't like that. This guy Taylor, he doesn't deserve 10%. So what we need to do is we need to take out of our CPI formula, we're going to take housing out because housing's going wild right now, and we shouldn't have housing in our calculation. It doesn't make sense. So they took housing out. So you can see in 1986, 89, where it dropped considerably to the 5% area. And then in 89, you can see it start to climb up again. And again, these government guys are really smart to get into a conference room and they say, well, wait a minute, we've got to take another look at this CPI increase. What else can we take out? Well, let's take out fuel and let's take out food. So I said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So they did that. You can see in 1992, the CPI increase took a big dive and then stayed at about 3% all the way to the present time, with the exception of a few bumps, mainly in 2009. But look at the blue line, the real CPI, the real cost of living, and it's about 9–10%. So what that tells you is that the government is, I won't say they're lying to you, but they're not being really square on their calculations. And you're going to have to, as an investor, make north of 9% to have real income. In other words, if you make 3% or you put it in you have a note out there for 5 or 6% in buying power, you're losing money. So you've got to come up with you've got to start making some money on the money that you have and really push your return on an investment. Okay, this is Lake Oroville. This is where I started buying land when I was at Cal State Fullerton. This lake was not in, the dam wasn't built. It was still being built. It wasn't finished till '67. So again, I got in early when nobody else was buying land around the lake. Today, it's the second largest lake in California. It's the tallest dam in the United States and the second largest earth-filled dam in the world. And if you look on sort of the top of the screen here, the area that's cleared, that's my property. I've got about a square mile of land in this one location. Below it is the state park, 180-acre state park. And it now has about 1.4 million visitors a year. The marina is the largest marina west of the Mississippi. So I got in early. This is a view from my home in my office, I'll call it, in Oroville. And this is a map. Everything of my property, everything in purple is land that I own. And the neighbor's land is in green, and in the orange, and the blue land at the top, the left-hand corner is one of my business partners. And then also the pink that you see right square in the middle of the picture is 40 acres that I put in. A buddy of mine, Han Jong, he was MBA student, Cal State Fullerton. And I've been negotiating on these 220s for probably 30 years. Finally got an opportunity to buy them. But John came to my office and he said, "Hon, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a check today for $100,000. His family had some money, and sight unseen, and he did. Today he has an offer out on the property for $3.2 million. So a little bit of profit there. Most of this land I paid about $1,000 to $2,500 an acre for, and today I'm negotiating to sell this land for about $85,000, and I'll be taking that money and actually moving it to Nevada, as I see the next big area around the Reno area. So, okay, let's see. Okay, another area, case study number 2 is in Corona. 1976, the 86. Again, for 2 years, from 76, 77, 78, I go in, meet with my broker, and we make ridiculous offers. This was one of the first properties I bought. It was a 12-unit apartment building in Corona. I remember standing out in front with the owner. He wanted to sell it for $150,000, which is a lot of money back in the 70s. And I told him I'd want to buy it, but here's the deal. I'm going to give you $5,000 down. And he said, $5,000, that's pretty skimpy, isn't it, on a $150,000 deal? I said, well, here's the deal. I want to save my money on the side so I can have a chance to fix up the asset, improve the asset, which improves your equity in your note. So if you have to take it back, you can get a better product than you sold to me. And I said, quite frankly, if I give you $150,000 cash, what are you going to do with it? And he said, well, I'm going to put it in the bank. And I said, well, the bank's going to give you 4% interest. I'm going to give you 10% interest on it. And he said, well, 10% sounds pretty good, Taylor. I'll do the deal with you. So I bought this property, 12 units for $5,000 down. Pretty good deal. Well, here's the backup. I didn't have $5,000. Okay. So I scratched my head again. I said, where am I going to get $5,000? So I go to the bank, and I had a job, which helped. I borrowed $5,000 on a 90-day note, and fixed the place up, raised rents, just did some landscaping and so forth. And 90 days goes by pretty quick. So my note's due. So I say, well, God, what am I going to do? I go back and ask them to extend it another 30 days, but my goal was to build credit with banks, not just one bank. So I went to bank number 2 and borrowed $5,000 to pay bank number 1. And then I sold the property 6 months and 180 days for $190,000. So I made $40,000 on a zero down, basically. This is the Landmark building, maybe familiar to you in Corona. It's the old Chinese theater. Many famous actors and actresses were present for the grand opening back in 1929. 2 of my partners and I, we bought it for $250,000 with $25,000 down, and held it for 20 years and paid off the note, free and clear. And then had a minister that took over the theater. And when I first met with him, he said he'd like to rent the theater for a church. I said, well, what's your budget? And he says, well, $500 a month. I said, well, that's exactly what the rent is, $500. And about 6 months later, I'd say, how you doing, Reverend Ray? He said, oh, I'm doing great. He said, I'm up from 60 parish people in my parish to 100 now. So I said, that's wonderful. So I come back and I raise his rent a little bit. And so over the years, I got him up to $14,000 a month, which is about all he could afford. And then about 2002, I was kind of concerned that if he moved out, I'd be in trouble having a single tenant in the building. So I thought, well, I'll sell him the building. So I approached Reverend Ray's and I said, here's the deal. I want to sell you the whole block here, half a block. And he says, well, I don't have any money. He said, well, that's not a problem. So I said, here's the deal. I'll sell it to you for $1,950,000 with $50,000 down. and at 8.5% interest, and you own the building. And I kept the payments at $14,000, so I worked backwards to get my amortization, and it amortizes over 48 years. So my great grandkids will probably be getting money on this note, but that's that. My share out of the partnership is about over $6,000 a month. I've been getting that for 20 years now, basically, and that's made my house payment. And it's been nice to have an extra $6,000 coming in every month. And then this is Corona Industrial Building. We bought this from the Corona Land Company for $120,000, which was a steal. $20,000 down, and we sold it for $1,250,000. And that was our last sale. Actually, we sold it a couple of times and repossessed it a couple of times, and each time we made money. But the last sale was at $1,250,000. Then Corona Villa Corona Villa Terrace purchased this for $470,000 with zero down, and sold it for $2,025,000. A little long story to go into that. How this was, how I bought this for nothing down, but more than happy, if you want to meet with me, I can walk you through the process. Sabo Properties, again, Sarah and Bob. And again, Sarah and I had lunch one time while she was working with me, and she says, Bob, she said, I want to make some money. And I said, well, how much money do you want to make? She says, well, I haven't thought about that, but I think I want to make $1 million, because I don't want to work 9 to 5 in my life, and I want to be able to have some money and independence. And I said, okay, you want to make $1 million? Let's make $2 million. You start your family, and I'll go buy a boat. And she says, okay, but she says, what do I do now? I said, well, here, I want you to go out and I want you to investigate all of Southern California and find out what areas haven't popped yet. In other words, where the values are the same today as they were, say, 20, 30 years ago. She says, I don't know if that's possible. I said, well, you're a Cal State Fuller graduate. Go to it. So she says, okay. So anyway, she comes back with Hemet and Banning. I said, well, I don't care for Hemet because it's too far away from the freeway, but I really like the Banning area because it's in the path of progress. So we got 2 freeways that are coming together, the 60 and the 10 right there, Beaumont. It's railroad is going right through the town. So eventually it's going to be a distribution center. You've got the Indian Reservation, Morongo, which is going to continue to grow and create jobs, which they do. And then also, if you look at a map for Riverside County, you've got the city of Riverside at one end, and you've got another courthouse out at Indio. And I said, this is a long ways for 200 miles, basically, or 150 miles between courthouses. Somewhere there's going to be a center for business in the middle here. And it's either going to be Beaumont or Banning, and I think it's going to be Banning. Well, fast forward 2 years ago, they just built a new courthouse. So it's becoming the office center and will be in distribution center for this whole area. We got Amazon just built a huge factory, huge distribution center there. And if you go into Banning, you can kind of see all the energy that's going on. And so we picked that as our target area. Again, we want to be the path of progress is really the key. You look at an area and you say to the area, is this area going to be better or worse than it is today? And if it's going to be better, then why is it going to be better? And you take a look at where the growth is going, where the population is migrating to. So we purchased over 70 properties, and now we're in process of developing another 32 properties in the city of Banning. So that's kind of a target for me for investment, and I'll continue investing and buying property in Banning. This is Sarah and I were driving through Banning one time, and I'm looking around and I see all this vacant land. I said, oh my gosh, I don't see any for sale signs on any of this land. And I said, it tells me that nobody's buying land. So I said, Sarah, find out who owns this land. So Sarah comes back and with a list of 750 owners of raw land, vacant land in the Banning area. I said, well, 750 is too many to tackle. Let's pick 100 properties. and let's contact the owners on these 70. But I said, or on the 100 properties. I said, let's target the owners that live in Connecticut or Florida or Los Angeles or anywhere but Wilmot Banning area, because they probably inherited this land and they may not even know they own it. So we did that. So Sarah contacts each one of them, and she received a call from a lady about 90 years old in Los Angeles, and says, yeah, Sarah, you sound like a nice young lady. I've got 15 acres there. I'll sell to you. And Sarah said, well, how much do you want for it? Sarah, and the lady said, well, 500. So Sarah kind of caught herself and said, well, 500 what? And she says, well, $500 an acre. Well, that's $7,500. And she calls me, and I said, well, book it, we'll buy it. And then I spent another $1,700 to have it surveyed. Okay, so now I'm up to about $9,000 for the property. But see, I really didn't spend $9,000. I remember I got my line of credit, so I borrowed the $9,000. So my interest on that was about $600, and now I wrote off that $600. So on my income tax, so I really paid about $400 for this property. And about 6 months later, I get a call from a contractor, builder, developer out in the Banning Beaumont area. He said, I'd like to buy your 15 acres. I said, well, okay, we'll sell it. And he says, how much do you want? And I said, I want $35,000 an acre. And that's $500,000. He said, oh my gosh, that's too much. We can't afford that. And I said, well, okay, no problem. I'm not interested in really selling it anyway, because I wanted my capital gains of 1 year to go buy it. I didn't want to pay ordinary income. You never want to pay tax. If you can avoid it, because government wastes the money. So anyway, a year later, almost like a year and a day, the phone rings again. It's the same guy. He says, your land's still for sale? I said, yep. I said, same price? Yep, $500,000. I want to make a long story short, in 2005, which was good timing because it's before the recession, we sold it for $500,000. I gave me the money to pay off the line of credit and put a couple bucks in our pocket and so forth. So that worked out good. Business Arena. This is an area I kind of targeted. This is probably the worst property in the Banning area. It had 96 completed units. The total development was 130 units. So there's like 34 units in undeveloped lots. And I bought units in this property here. I really like the property because it has good bones, as they say. It's got a tennis court. It's got a block wall all the way around it. It's got a swimming pool, spa. It's just laundry room, lots of open space. Really a nice property. And the vacant lots, as you can see from the picture, they were owned by Trans-America Corporation out of Omaha. And they've been paying dues, if you will, HOA fees, $8,000 total per month for 30 years. And somebody woke up in Omaha and said, what's this all about? And so they sent a couple of attorneys in nice suits out to meet with the board of directors of this HOA, which I was president at the time. And they said, well, you want to sell these lots to the HOA. The reason they wanted to sell them is they wanted to get out from that $8,000 a month. And they could, normally you'd say, well, why didn't they just foreclose? Why don't we just stop making the payments and the HOA would, take them back, take possession of them. Well, they can't very well do that because Trans-America Corporation, last thing they want on the front page of the Times is, foreclosure against Trans-America Corporation because non-payment of an HOA dues. So I said, what do you want for the lots? And they said, well, we're going to give you a deal because these are good lots and, you can build on them. We'll sell them for $10,000 a lot, which is $340,000. I said, well, okay, I got it, but here's our deal. We'll take those lots off your hands if you give us $200,000. And God, you could hear a pin drop in the room. I think my attorney was about to fall off his chair, and these guys were like, huh, And so they weren't really excited talking to me, but they got in their limousine, went back to Ontario Airport, and then back to Omaha. 2 months later, 2 weeks later, I guess I should say, we got a call, my attorney did, saying, say they'll go for 150,000, but not a dime more. Well, that was my objective, was 150,000. So I said, book it, we'll do it. So we got 150,000 plus the lots. And now the HOA is in the process of selling these lots for 15,000 a lot. So that brings it about 470,000. So we made about 600,000 on a zero down deal for the HOA. I'm one of the partners of 3 partners building on these lots, and we're going to build 32 units. We had a telephone conversation on that with the city of Banning today, and I think we're getting close to starting construction here shortly. And then this is what you like to see when our Taylor properties vacancy, 0 vacancy, no delinquencies, just nobody on, no transfers, no nothing, just clean slate. So the units were renting for $350 a unit when we started buying back in the early 2000s. Today I'm getting $1,200 for a 1-bedroom plus $125 for a garage. So it's really starting to pay off. This is really kind of a cash cow, but my partner and I, we've never taken a dime out. We just keep booking the money and keep buying more property. Now, Sable Properties 2001 to 2005, we purchased 47 properties with bank money, sold 7 properties 2005, paid off a line of credit, bank loans, and entered the recession with 40 properties with term loans, which working capital was paid off. Post 2007, we sold a lot of houses that we had in the area and just focused on this one property, centralize our management. I currently own 37 properties in Business Arena out of the 96, and I'm one of the partners building the other 32. So we continue to purchase as time goes on here. Formula investing in real estate, select an area with the greatest appreciation. So if you were to Google fastest growing cities in California, one would be the Beaumont Banning area. I think it's like number 5. And then also Oroville is also in there, I think is number 9. So we're the 2 places that I've invested just happen to be in the fastest growing areas. You want to know the market. That's why you don't like to be in too many markets, but pretty well know the Banning market like the back of my hand, and the same way with the Lake Oroville market. And make ridiculous offers. In other words, they mentioned before, every Saturday with my broker in hand, we'd make 10 ridiculous offers. He would go over the list of new properties that were listed on the multiple listing that prior week, and we'd just sit there as we're having breakfast and create the offers that we're going to make. So say that's 4 weeks, 4 Saturdays, 10 times 10, it's 40 offers we made in a month, and maybe we'd only get 1, maybe we get 2 purchases. But they would be whoopies, if you will. So it makes sense. You have to make a lot of ridiculous offers. People think you're crazy. Tell them never work, but you never know the motivation of the seller. Many sellers are quite motivated to make money. They've got debt coming due, or they got something happening, divorce or whatever, and they've got to sell. Or a lot of people inherited the money, and maybe the property's worth $100,000. And if you offer them 50, the kids will take it because it's as if it's a gift. So then you want to finance over 15 years if you can. Pay off. Your objective here is to pay off all of the property you can as soon as you can. Because your objective at the end of the road, you want to own real estate free and clear. So it's like I have 1,200 acres over at Lake Oroville. It's all owned free and clear. I'm in the process of buying a 50-unit apartment building in Nevada. I'm paying free and clear. I'm just paying cash. See, I wouldn't do that 50 years ago, 60 years ago, because I probably won't be around another 60 years to enjoy the appreciation. But now what I'm looking for is cash flow, give me money so I can go ahead and buy more stuff, and safety as far as my kids are concerned, that they have surety and they have money for take them through their education and so on and so forth. And then when you start off, again, minimum down payment. Now to talk about this for a second, say you buy a property. Well, first of all, each one of you start off with your first home buyer. I would suggest that you buy a fourplex maybe instead of a house, because you can buy 4 units as your first time home buyer and get the same benefit as if you were buying a home. Now you can live in one and rent out the other 3, and then eventually you go buy a house somewhere and live where you want to live. But so I take advantage of that first time home buyer right away, and I would do it on multifamily rather than a single family home. The other thing too is when you buy property, say you get a loan for 80% loan, and maybe you can get the seller to take back a 15% second trust deed. So now you only put up 5% down payment, even though you have the 20%. Okay. You want to, because what I do is I give them a loan, they take back 15% and say it's $15,000. I'll call that former buyer, the seller rather, and tell them I'll give them say 50% of the money now rather than waiting another 3 years, and they always take it. So I just want to make that. Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Buying strategy, notify and negotiate the variables, price, terms, interest rates, down payment. All of these are variables. So I'd go in, I give a low price, terms to my benefit, interest rates low, maybe down payment low, closing date. Like right now, I'd say, I want to buy your property, but I want to take it over or go close until January. And they say, well, why so long? It's like 3 months, 4 months. I said, well, it's to your benefit. I'm doing that because you're going to make a lot of money on this property. You're going to have to pay capital gains tax. If you buy it, if I sell it to you, I buy it now, you're going to have to pay tax in April. If we make January the closing date, now it's January or it's April 2022 before you have to pay the capital gains tax. So maybe you can talk them into taking closing later than sooner, and that gives you a chance to, if you don't have the down payment, to go find some partners and put the deal together. Okay, Titans Law, OPE, other people's experience. Form your own independent board of directors, associate with the best people, I should say, and group decisions better than individual decisions. Just like I was doing business in China for 15 years, and Dr. Wei Liu was my advisor, if you will, my informal board of directors. And I didn't make a move in China unless he said, yeah, well, that's a good idea, or no, you better stay away from that particular problem. Associate with the best people you can. I was had one of my clients said, Taylor, you may not be the smartest knife in the drawer, but you surround yourself with the best people. He was also one of my best friends, so he could tell me that. And I said, you're absolutely correct. That's my secret of success. Okay. Going back just real quick here, group decisions better than individual decisions. I'm sort of the marketing guy and I like to move fast with my decisions. But I surround myself with what I call no people. People who they're not worried about saying, hey, Taylor, you're making a mistake here. You should watch this or look at that. And, here's the poison in the tea, so to speak. So I want the input from people around me that see things different than I do. Because my philosophy is, ready, fire, aim. Minimize your risk, research, develop an exit strategy, debt versus equity. And debt versus equity, let me talk about that for a second. There's only 2 ways that you can own property or own real estate and have 0 risk. And you say, well, how's that? Well, say in one side, if you say you were able to purchase 10 properties with 0 down, okay? And you were able to eventually have 10 properties with that you own free and clear. you go through the Great Recession or Depression, the properties that you have highly leveraged, you just give back to the bank. You know, God forbid, okay? But the properties you have own 100% equity, nobody can take that away from you, okay? The reality is the properties you have 100% equity will carry you through the bad times on the properties that you have debt on. And then conduct long and short-term financial analysis on your portfolio, what properties you want to keep, what properties you want to sell. Opportunities in real estate, you know, I just go through these real quick. We've identified, by the way, 32 opportunities or categories that we can share with you and help you identify where you want to land a career in real estate. Buying real estate, again, it's vision, the target market and product type, gain knowledge, buy right, other people's money, make many offers, and obtain seller financing when possible. I can talk to you about that, even though you can afford to pay cash. Get the seller to buy seller financing, because whatever they made on selling the property to you, that cash, I can assure you they have spent in a 2-year period, and they could always use money. So, okay. Why are home prices high? It's supply and demand, okay? The cost of entitlements and permits is just skyrocketed. Just like our project in Vista Serena in Banning, we're building 2-bedroom, 2-bath units for about $200,000, but our permit is $35,000. So if you're building $1 million house, well, that's only about 3.5%. If you're building a $200,000 house, that's 17.5%. Well, that's your profit, your builder's profit. That's why nobody is building low-cost housing anymore. The cost of permitting, there's too many regulations that'll just eat you up. It's crazy. I can go into that, but later on, but too much time to get approval through. On my 3rd year of building out these 32 units at Vista Serena, and it's just the bureaucracy of the city and county and state government. This I want to kind of spend some time on for a minute. Take the property, a market value of 100,000. Say it's a condominium or whatever, and just use 100,000. It's easy to work with. Say you buy for 90,000. You always want to try and come in 10% lower than what the asking price is. Now, the average inflation, if you ask people on the street, it's about 4%. That's normal demand plus the cost of construction. And by the way, the cost of lumber right now is going from about $250 a board foot to about $800 a board foot. So it's just, you know, cost of construction is just starting to skyrocket. Okay, path of progress, and that's about 4%. Now, if you buy in path of progress like Banning or Oroville, okay, that's market demand exceeds supply. So I can test that you get another 4% bump. And then also improvements, I like to buy properties that are, say, C properties, where you can add value. So I'll go in and buy a unit maybe for 40 or 50,000. Maybe I put 20,000 into it, but I've created value. Now the property's worth maybe 120,000. And so I try to get a 13% annual increase in value. Remember, the market is, say, 9% real inflation. So add in equity buildup on paying down your underlying note, if you will, plus the depreciation you get, the sheltered ordinary income. And then if you look at the beginning of value, say 100,000, first year, maybe it's 113,000 total value. Second year, 128, 144, 163. By the end of 5 years, you should be at $184,000. So that's the way to kind of creation of value. Okay, who creates value in real estate? These are all the different categories. And again, there's 32 of them. I didn't list them all. But who in this category of activities really creates value? Well, the answer is the real estate manager. He's the only one. Everybody else adds to the property, but doesn't create the value. Objectives of the real estate manager is to maximize operating income. That's, you know, in total income less expenses, NOI. So that's your bottom line. And then protect and extend the life of the asset. Very simple. Those are only 2 objectives of the real estate manager. Do those 2, and you're good to go. The owner, he has to set the value or the vision for his property. What is he? Does he want this to be the nicest property in the market, or middle, or slum property, or whatever he wants it to do? He's the guy that running the store, so to speak. And the property manager sets the strategy. That's what you guys are going to be doing. To create value, and then you delegate that to the on-site manager to implement that strategy. Goals of a management company. These are goals that I set for my company, the REM Group. And one is quality. I want to be the very best in the marketplace. I just want my reputation to be the very best. And I want to get the highest rents. I always hear about keeping up with the Jones. I wanted to be Jones, and it's up to everybody else to keep up with me. A relationship, very, very important. And profit is number 3. I'll sacrifice profit for relationship and quality. We had one of our clients. We made a mistake at our company, and we didn't put in a CPI increase, or a step increase, if you will, on a large office building. And because of that, there's a $60,000 negative. And we went to the owner, my property manager, and I, and we said, here's the problem. We missed it by 60,000. Sorry about that. We caught our mistake. We're going to make it right. And he said, this was the president of Mitsui, by the way, said, don't worry about it. Everybody makes mistakes. We'll make it up. We'll figure it out. He says, nope, we made a mistake, and we're going to make it up. So I put in 30,000, and my property manager paid in 30,000. And but that's the best 60,000 we ever spent, because other companies were trying to take my business away from me, of course, and being competitive. But I learned the respect and built relationship with my client. Maximize net operating income. If you've got a vacancy in an apartment building or office building or whatever, it's the 5 Ps really work. Of course, place, wherever you buy, you want to have the best location you possibly can. Product, you want to be the best. Promotion, you want to target the right market. Price, not too high and not too low. And personnel, you got the ability to perform. Management, you want to continue to add value. In other words, as I go out and I visit my properties once a month, I always try and set objectives for the next 30 days to do something that increases the value of the property. And qualify my tenants very carefully. I haven't had an eviction or in probably 15 years. Focus on, but I check my tenants very, very well. So focus on quality, build a brand and reputation. If you have investors, never allow them to lose money. You can never do that. You got to keep your reputation and be aware of the real estate cycles. This is just kind of a quick area that I was thinking about investing in. If I wasn't going to Nevada to invest, I'd invest here, probably in Palm Springs. It's kind of a growth area right now. And at this one project, I could buy units for less than $100,000. And I know it costs you a couple $100,000 to build these units. So I don't know if they're still available or not, but might be something to look at in Palm Springs Villas. Titan's Law regarding life, enjoy life. And Panos here. Hi, Panos. Invest in yourself, communicate enthusiasm, experience different things, and do the right things. You do everything right in life, but not do the right things. You want to do the right things. And remember your community. That what you do for yourself dies when you do. That what you do for your community lasts on forever. And then Mark Twain, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you did not do than by the things that you did do. Sail away from a safe harbor and catch the trade winds for your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Whoops. This is property is seen by the seller. Property is seen by a buyer. Property is seen by an appraiser and the tax collector. I'm sure Evelyn's talked to you about the real estate industry associations, and we're in the process of getting all of these different organizations on our board of directors. We probably have half of them right now, and building very close relationships. And the idea is for while the students are in college working on your degree, you will join one of these organizations as a student member, and now you're sort of hobnobbing around with some of the top executives and real estate people in Orange County. And so Evelyn and Lindsay can go over that with you and kind of help you select. This is for this year, but for next year, Commercial Real Estate Forum in January, Argus Financial Analysis probably in April. You definitely have to do the Argus Financial Analysis. The board can explain that to you. We had ICSC convention in May. It was canceled this year because of the virus, but we've got probably 45,000 people that attend this, and it's a great way for you to hand out your business card and resume and so forth. Job placement in the real estate industry, I think we've placed 38 students. Every student that's come to us looking for a job, we've been able to place in good jobs. Ambassador, once you go to work for a company, now you become the ambassador for that company to us at the College of Business. We can talk about that. The interim program for real estate students, it's in place. Introduction to trade organizations, associations, we talked about that. And we really need participation in the spring with real estate practice and real estate law. We're really trying to build up a real estate program, degree concentration. We want to get a certificate first, and then it'll be a minor in real estate and then a major in real estate, and eventually MBA in real estate. So our foot's on the accelerator to create the very best and biggest real estate program in certainly California, maybe the Western United States. And invest in real estate, be financially independent. And anything I can do to help any one of you, feel free to give me a call. I love working with the students, and my goal is to help you find a job, one, and two, make you rich. So I'll turn that over to you, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Bob, for that amazing presentation and all the amount of knowledge you've accumulated over the last 40 years or so. And thank you for continuously being a mentor to the REA. Before we open it for questions, I just want to make a couple quick announcements just to remind everyone that the presentation is recorded. We will be posting it on our YouTube page and sending out a link to everyone. Next week is our last meeting to attend if you're not a member. We do have the Venmo posted in the chat, so if you'd like to become a member and join, please do that. And if you haven't signed in already, we have a sign-in link as well, so we can track to see how many members and how successful we are at bringing everybody in. After saying that, I am going to end the recording, but we will open it up for questions.